Aysha Griffin, and I'm here with you today from the Costa Brava, where I live in Northeast Spain. And I'm so excited to be speaking with an old friend who is in Dubai. And I'm going to introduce you to her in a moment. Her name is Abha Malpani Naismith, and she may have to tell me how to pronounce that. But we met in 2008. Due to my traveling to Madrid and not knowing anyone. So I contacted a travel writer I had met at Book Passage travel writing conference in 2007, and his name is Ralph Potts. And I asked Ralph, do you know anyone in Madrid? And he said, well, not really, but I have this travel blogger, this blogger who's writing for my website, my blog, and she seems very nice, and I'll put you in contact, give you her contact information. I said, great. So I met Abha Malpani at the time, and we just hit it off and did some marvelous things together, meeting up at 1 a.m. and going out for tapas in Madrid and learning a little bit about her life, but I didn't know much. And then we've kept in touch sporadically. And recently she contacted me to tell me about a book she had written of her adventures in Spain, based largely on her blogs. And that's where I learned so much about her and the life she's now living, but 13 years later. That is quite different and surprising to me, because I had no idea. And I loved reading her book. It just read so quickly and excitingly about travel and about the adventures of being a young woman taking off and just being willing to have that kind of adventure. So I want you to meet Abha Malpani, and welcome, Abha.
Hi, Aysha. Thank you so much for having me on your show. This is really exciting. It's so nice to talk to you again after all these years.
So, Abha, please tell us about your book and how that came about.
Sure. So, I moved to Spain I left a corporate job in Dubai. I was done with my job and I wanted a change. So I left everything and I moved to Spain. Before I left for Spain, I launched a blog because I love writing, and I started writing, and it was going to be my way of documenting what my move. So I launched in 2005, a little time before I left, and then when I moved to Spain, I really started writing because I needed an outlet. I needed an outlet to talk about this massive life change that I had just done.
Now, let me ask you, why did you do that? Why did you you were young, you're in your mid-20s, right? And you had this corporate job, right?
Because I was doing really well at my corporate job. I was working in a PR firm and I was on the fast track to growth because I worked hard and I worked well and I was keen and all of that. But at the age of 26, I found myself totally burnt out, doing 15-hour days, loving my work, but really not having much else of a life. So I was working 15-hour days and spending the weekends on my parents' couch, not really having any friends, not really having any hobbies. And I realized that if this is what a corporate job is this it? And it really scared me because I was 26 and I felt totally burnt out. I felt soulless. I felt that this can't be the rest of my life. During those 4 years, to keep myself sane, I started salsa dancing. And this is where I come to how I decided to go to Spain. Salsa dancing was my savior from the corporate world. It was my 2 hours of escape from anything serious, to just dance, be silly, get some exercise, and meet people who are totally different to me and have nothing to do with my work, and just live a little, right, at the age of 26. And also the best thing about salsa was the people I met, they just came to dance. So I had no commitments. I didn't have to make any friends. I didn't have to see anybody anytime else to keep a friendship. There was no commitments. And that's what I needed. I needed an outlet. Mm-hmm. So I did that. And what happened when I was, I got really obsessed with salsa as my side hobby. I could sing so many songs in Spanish. So when I decided to quit my job and move somewhere, I always had in my mind that I want to learn Spanish. Because I thought if I learned Spanish, I will enjoy dancing more because I will actually understand what I'm singing and dancing too. But the idea was never Spain to begin with. It was Central or South America.
I want to get into your book. I want to jump into what happened with that, and what I had discovered is, about the salsa dancing being the major factor in moving you there. And then you got into teaching English. You did, 6 months or something in Valencia? And
so yeah, I moved to Valencia because it has the biggest salsa scene in Spain.
Great.
And also I didn't want to be in Madrid or Barcelona to start with because they were too big of cities. I wanted to be somewhere smaller, but not too small. So Valencia kind of ticked all the boxes. And I was there for 6 months and I enrolled in a Spanish language course in a school called Don Quixote. And I did 6 hours a day for 6 months, Spanish intensive immersion. And then when I was there for 6 months, I was just getting my feet into things. And I was like, I can't leave. This is great. My journey is just beginning. I need to stay. So then I came back to Dubai and I had to restart all my paperwork so that I could move again because my visa was a 6-month study visa.
Right.
So I come back to Dubai and then I reapplied to go back as a student. Mm-hmm. And then and Valencia, by then I had exhausted Valencia. So I needed to move somewhere bigger. And that's when I moved to Madrid.
Well, and luckily, luckily we met through that. But you had mentioned to me about your relationship with Ralph. Connection with Ralph Potts, and how that had. You were writing for him and his blog, Vagablog, right? And that he had really impacted your life in terms of that, the wanderlust and the having the courage to take that step too, right?
His book. It's crazy. It's totally crazy. So I needed a push to quit my job. Okay. I needed something. It was all there, but I needed that tipping point or that would put me over the threshold. Mm-hmm. And that's when I went to this website called Transitions Abroad, which is a great website, which really helps you. Anybody who wants to move overseas to do anything, it's an abundance of resources there. So I went on there and I started looking at people who had done what I wanted to do and find similarities in their thinking. And I found this one guy on there. I wrote to him. He introduced me to Rolf's book. And he said, you need to read this book. It will really help you. And I read the book overnight. Rolf Potts, Vagabonding, the Art of Long-Term Travel. And I read it overnight. And it's literally what I needed to quit my job because I read it and I quit my job the next day.
Wow, that's pretty powerful.
That's what I needed. I think I was at that cusp. I was like, this is it. I just needed to be pushed over. And his book helped me. And I was incredibly lucky to have read his book and moved overseas. And then I wrote to him that I did this. And
this is the thing most people don't understand is that most writers don't get that kind of, maybe nowadays with blogs for sure, but in the older days, with to be an author. I always found if I wrote to authors, they were always so surprised to hear from their readers because they didn't get that kind of feedback. And so it was always very,
sure.
No matter how famous people were, I found I could write to them and they would respond. And I was always like, well, I got a letter from him, And so Ralph responded to you, right? And
he responded to me immediately and said, sure, you should write to me. And because I was just beginning my journey, it was perfect for him because everyone that writes on his blog is somebody who's taken the leap, somebody who's actually ditched the 9-to-5 and decided to travel and do something different. So obviously he had, I want to say, 30, 35 bloggers at the time writing about the same things, and we fed off of each other's content, and it was just a really great community. And we not only got to express how we felt, but we also got to engage with other people that wanted to do the same and needed some encouragement. So it was really great.
So
and then while I was there,
sorry, go ahead.
That writing opportunity again gave me a whole lot of other writing opportunities. So because the whole point of me going overseas was not only to learn Spanish, but it was also to try and be a travel writer. So the idea was, I want to move overseas, I want to learn a language, I want to travel and write. This was the goal. So I learned the language through language school, and then I wrote for Vaga blogging, and then through this guy who I met on Transitions Abroad, who introduced me to Rolf, he was a writer. So he connected me to, at the time, there was this very famous blog based in New York called Gawker. Maybe you know of it. They had a very famous travel blog called Grid Skipper. It no longer exists anymore, unfortunately. But the editor of Grid Skipper met me in Dubai, but just before I left for Valencia. And he said, I need a writer in Valencia. Do you want to do it? So
this is
somehow the universe.
Isn't this like the kind of the magic of when you put yourself in motion to?
Absolutely.
Right.
So I feel like I just put myself out there and I started manifesting all these things. So literally, like, I want to say not even a week before I was about to leave, this guy from Transitions Abroad says, hey, the editor of Grid Skippers in Dubai, and he's looking for people who live in Dubai to interview for his blog. You should meet him. And I'm like, sure. So I met him and he interviewed me on living in Dubai. And then I told him about my life and he said, do you want to write for me? I need someone in Spain. And I said, sure. And that was a big break for me because it was a very famous blog. Mm-hmm. So that helped me get a whole bunch of other writing opportunities.
Absolutely. One thing leads to another.
So, and I ended up writing for 7 blogs while I was there.
That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work too, right? It takes a lot of time to do that.
Turning out about 100. I was doing about 60 to 70 blog posts a month.
That's a lot. And so, so you boiled that down into this book, right?
Yes.
Of your experiences. What I found was that because it was a blog and well written and very present, whatever it was you were going through, you wrote about it. And so it was like, ooh, this is like the real story. It's not filtered through our memories of it. It was present. And so how did you determine what blogs to pick and to put this together, and why did you do it after all these years and other changes in your life, which I want you to tell us about first? But
sure. So it was another day, and I was just I my memories of Spain are so fond and so vivid that I still feel I just left recently, but it's been almost 15 years and it's insane. And I still talk about it as if it was yesterday. And so this led me to start reading my blog again 3 years ago. So I just sat one day and I just read through the whole thing. And I laughed and I cried and everything came back in this whirlwind of emotions. And I was like, I would love my children to know about what I did when I was younger and how I took the leap and how I followed my spirit and how I wasn't afraid and I just left everything to live a life of adventure for a few years. And my kids are 3 and 1 now. So and all I could think of was I really hope that when they grow older, they have the courage and spirit to follow their dreams and follow their curiosity and, just not be afraid because of what convention asks them to do. So the reason of putting this together in a book was really my children, and the book is actually dedicated to them. So I really hope when they turn 18, they will look at it and say, hey, my mom did this. And hopefully they think it was cool. And it was really for them. But then when I started putting it together, I realized that there must, especially since COVID has happened, I feel like everybody's relooking at their life now. I mean, COVID has totally changed how everybody thinks about what they're doing, because it's just changed the way our lives have changed from night to day. It's totally different now. And I feel like it's given a lot of perspective to a lot of people, and they're asking questions that, am I happy what I'm doing with my life? Because life can be taken away from us. Life as we know it can be taken away from us. And we've learned that, everyone's learned that through COVID. Mm-hmm. So I feel like a lot of people are introspecting and thinking about their life choices now. Unfortunately, a lot of people have lost jobs and have had to move and so many things, right? So when I was putting this together, I started feeling that this is a great time to put it out there because, I started putting the book together pre-COVID. But then as I was putting together, I realized that this isn't about me going abroad and just starting a new life. It's about having the courage to take big decisions that change your life. And I think that's what I'm trying to, the message I'm trying to give through the book, through what I did. And in the book, I talk about the highs, I talk about the lows, I talk about being really upset and totally lost and not knowing what I'm doing. But I also talk about everything I've learned and how I've grown as a result from it. So what I was, not only did I have my children in mind, but what I was also hoping is that if anybody reads this book, maybe they'll take a bite of it.
Right. It doesn't, and the idea being it really doesn't matter. Of course, when you're in your 20s, and there's still a lot of hesitation. And of course, as you said, there's a lot of fear in the world now and lots of restrictions and other reasons. But I read all the time on the travel forums and things, lots of young people, particularly young women, talking about, I'm thinking about, I'd like to do this. And there's always, like you say, that fear, that hesitation, which your book does give you a much greater sense of the reality, and that not only is it possible, but all the ways it will change your life are going to be expansive and not always easy, but it will be a great adventure that you will always have. And I don't know anyone that's ever regretted doing it. And also, it doesn't matter your age,
No, it doesn't.
It's like if it calls to you, if it's something, a passion that you want to explore, I think you are so about encouraging people to take that step and do it. Yes.
Yeah, that's the thing. It does, as you said, it's got nothing to do with travel per se, but it's more about having the energy and the courage to just make a decision to follow your own dream.
That's right.
And I think, and it's also about being tremendously outside your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. So, and this is, I think, where people get stuck a bit, and I have to admit, I'm back in that stage of my life where I want to make decisions like this again, because I feel like I need to make another life change. But now I have a lot of other things to think about because I'm married, I have 2 kids, but it doesn't mean that I can't follow a dream. You just need to work around it.
But it's a different dream now, right? I mean,
it's a different dream. Exactly. It is a different dream. And so no matter what stage of your life you're in, if you have a dream, you can, if you really want it, you will always find a way. And I think it's the fear is what stops people from taking that, because it's the fear of the unknown.
Of course, it's always the fear of the unknown. And so, there's no formula for doing that. It's just you make a commitment. And then I think it's easier when you have a goal, like the idea, I'm going to learn a language, or I'm going to become a travel writer, or I'm going, where there's some idea, I'm going to explore some culture or some art or something that I'm interested in, personal interest. It gives it a bit of a focus rather than just wandering around. I mean, that's been my experience.
No, absolutely. I think if I didn't have a goal, I'd be totally lost.
Right.
I would just turn up in Spain and not know what I'm doing here. But right. Because I had a goal, and also what happened is, because of that goal, it immediately put me into a system. It gave me structure. It gave me a community. It made me meet people immediately. It gave me, so it was much easier to integrate while I was doing that. So it definitely makes sense to have a goal. But then my goals changed as I was there, because I never expected to stay there for 3 years. And I didn't have enough money to stay there for 3 years. So the 6 months I didn't work, I used my savings to live in Valencia for 6 months. But then I wanted to stay longer, and I had to find a way to finance myself. The blogging helped. I could pay my rent through the blogging. That wasn't enough. So that's when I started teaching English, and I did my teaching English as a foreign language certification, and I started teaching English to supplement my income. So at the end of my 3 years, I didn't touch much of my savings. I just lived off of what I earned, and that way, when I left Spain, I wasn't broke.
Yes, this is really important too, because getting that kind of certification and having that ability, and to teach in foreign countries is really another way to make it make sense, make those connections, have a sense of purpose, all of that. Yeah.
And you can do that anywhere, and now tomorrow I decide to move somewhere else and teach English, I could do that.
It's kind of the same everywhere. And so I just love to know, and as this Diary of an Indian Girl in Spain has been launched into the world, and that project is now complete. And I will put all of your links to your website and to your book and all of that for our viewers to take advantage of and hopefully buy and read and share your book widely. But what's your dreams now? What's next in the...
It's a very good question. Yeah, I mean, I think my dream in one way is very similar to what it was 15 years ago, in that having like the time and freedom to structure my own day. Mm-hmm. And right now, that was another thing I wanted to do, just be able to manage my own time and not report into a boss. So now, especially with two small children, I feel that, it would be great if I had some more time freedom. Mm-hmm. But then to have some more time freedom, I need some more financial freedom. So I'm kind of working. I don't know what it is yet, to be honest. I'm kind of still plodding away on what it might be. Mm-hmm. But I'm looking to see how I can, maybe not now, but maybe at least from now in the next 3 to 5 years, try and find a way where I can sustain myself and have my own time freedom and also do something I really enjoy. So I mean, if we start that conversation, it's going to be like an octopus because
right. I get it. But when you have two small children, that's a whole big job in itself. Besides working and your partner and your parents are there. I mean, you've got a lot going on. So
what's interesting. Sorry to interrupt you. Is that sure. I'm back at that mental mind I was 15 years ago, because it means I need to make those decisions. It means I need to take a leap of faith if it's really what I want, and it means I need to plan it and jump.
Right.
So I'm in a way trying to remind myself how it was back then, so that I can again have the courage to do it. Because right now I have a lot more to worry about. Like I have kids, husband, I have, life to sustain, and, kids is not cheap to have kids. So, schools, and so you do need a certain amount of financial strength with you, So yeah, I find myself reading my book again, just to give myself a bit more of, like, I did this before, I can do it again.
Yes. Yes, and you will. I have every confidence, and I'm looking forward to the next story because I know that, our lives, especially lives of adventurers and people that do take risks, it's just, the next chapter, the next adventure, and it's very exciting that you put this together and shared it with the world, and that now you're going to have the next one. So we will talk about that in the future. I look forward to that. I thank you so much for spending this time with us. I know you're at your parents' house, and you got a child downstairs, and I've got a barking dog in the next room, and life is going on. But
you just have to get on with it. That's the lesson. Have to get on with it.
Get on with it. Abha, it's just wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all this with us.
No, thank you for having me. It's one thing to write a book, and then it's one thing to talk about it. And it's just so great to be able to have a conversation with someone like you, who's also, done so many amazing things, and who is constantly taking that leap. I feel reinventing yourself and finding different things, and following your passions. And it's so great that you're bringing this forward to everyone, so that maybe somebody else will be inspired too.
Yes, that's the whole point, is more inspiration, more encouragement to take risks. Because without that, like Helen Keller said, your life is a grand adventure or it's nothing at all. And so...
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what also people forget is that there's never a good time to plan an adventure. There's right. always something that's going to stop you. Oh, my job. Oh, my kids. Oh, there's never a good time. And there's no such thing as a perfect plan. And I think once people realize that there is no such thing as that, maybe you'll take the leap. And this is me talking to myself, by the way. So yeah, but no, thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for having me.
So thank you for tuning in, and all of the links are below. If you've enjoyed this, please subscribe, leave a comment, a like, and share it, okay? Because I want more of these kinds of conversations with interesting people like Abha, who have something really to add to our world and to give us the courage to move forward during these really uncertain times. So thank you all. Take care. All right. Now.